Podcast. We are back for another week. I'm alongside Lewis Schaefer, and we have a good show planned for tonight. We will talk a little NFL, MLB, NHL playoffs, but first we're going to start off with the most pressing issue, the NBA Finals, and the Warriors, who just went up in the series 3-2 in Game 5.
Yeah, this was a huge game for the Warriors to take. I mean, everybody kind of had a suspicion that, no Kyrie, no Love, that it would eventually get to LeBron. But then Game 2 and 3 happened, and it seemed like it wasn't going to affect him. Now you're starting to see it, where you're starting to see signs of carrying this whole team is looking eerily similar to the first run with the Cavs, where he's beaten down by the finals. And
yeah, I agree. I would think rather LeBron would want it this way, if that makes any sense. Like, it almost is like when he was in Miami and he had Bosh and Wade, Chalmers and Ray Allen. Like, it was, you win, you had the team around you. If you lose, you weren't able to lead the team around you. And then in Cleveland, It's like you win, you carried a bunch of nobodies. And if you lose, you had a bunch of nobodies. So it's almost like a win-win for him, even if he loses the series.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's weird, though. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, this series had the feel, even, like I said, with the Kyrie and Love injury, that, it's Harrison Barnes guarding him, so maybe it doesn't make that big of a difference, but I mean, you can tell just, like we mentioned before the finals even started, the defense taking a toll on him, and now there's no one else to put the load on. Deladova will drop his, 10, 15, but no one's going to be a consistent scoring threat like Kyrie or Kevin Love would have been for the Cavs.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. And like you said, LeBron looked like he had the series after Kyrie goes down. All of a sudden, they win the next 2 games, and it seemed like he had no help. I mean, yes, Mozgov had a career game, but it was because the Warriors played a small lineup. But LeBron was putting up a triple-double, 40 points, and you were just watching and thinking, oh my, he's going to carry the Cavs. It's just, he's unstoppable. But then Steve Kerr stepped up, had made the move that had to be made, put Iguodala in the starting lineup, and that seemed to change the tide of the series. I don't know if it really made an impact on the game as much as it made an impact on the Warriors. Like, Iguodala was still coming in and getting 30 minutes a game, but implementing in the starting lineup, I think, woke up the Warriors and gave them the idea that I'm not afraid to make a change, and if you guys don't start playing up to your potential, I'll sit you on the bench.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't think it was as much that, though, as much as, you were able to see in the first 3 games when Iguodala came in, it was a different team. They started to play their style of ball. It was... They had a different feel when that small up was in off the bench. So I think it was more just that, get back to our style of basketball and the way we play, to our best against the Cavs with Iguodala in instead of, and with the small lineup.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, and I can see that too. And even when the Warriors were playing not that great, they were still playing very good defensively. I mean, not against LeBron, because unless you have Iguodala on him, it's a mismatch every time. But just being able to shut down everyone else around him, and I don't think, other than the overtime game, I don't think the Cavs scored over 100 points in a game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely a factor of, like I said, the defense. I mean, Iguodala is getting his 30 minutes regardless. But, When LeBron can't come out and dominate the game at the start because Iguodala's on him, that gets the Warriors playing their style, but it also slows down the Cavs because you saw there were teams, especially in games 2 and 3, where they'd start somewhat slow, and then once Steph, Clay, and Barnes, Iguodala, whoever needed their break, and the Livingstons and Leandro Barbosa's came in, that's when you saw the Cavs almost taking advantage of the fact that, we'll put our starters back in because your bench is in. Bench behind, obviously, Wade, Bosh, and LeBron, I think we're seeing that. They were not able to develop the bench that they wanted in Cleveland, with the amount of time they had left to get a decent one, with the 3 big players coming into Cleveland. Well, one staying, but the other 2 coming back, either back or into Cleveland. So I think we're seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Cavs, they had a mismatch, but instead of utilizing that mismatch, they decided to just try and match the Warriors, and that's not. When looking at it, I didn't think it was a good thing for David Blatt to do. Turns out it wasn't, because it ended up in a loss. Because if you look at the game when they lost, it was by 21 points. And they had Mozgov get 28, which was a career high. Then they had Shumpert only get 5 and J.R. Smith get only 4. But this game, they get J.R. Smith to get 14 and Mon Shumpert to get 10, which means that's 15 more points than what they had before. So then it's a 6-point game. And then if you put Mozgov in, I believe they win Game 5. If they're able to play Mozgov, and then they just had to rely on Shumpert and Smith to get going. They got going this game, and then they don't play Mozgov, which plays into the loss. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and I think you got to put this loss on Dave Blatt.
Yeah, definitely on Dave Blatt. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Normally I try to look for the positive and things like this, but there's no explanation unless they're not telling us something and he's been playing banged up, that you don't play Mozgov in this game. It's ridiculous.
The reason I don't think he's banged up is because after every timeout or every foul, Mozgov was the first guy jumping off the bench, giving high fives. He was up off the bench, trying to get his team going from the sideline, which makes me think he was not banged up, because if you're banged up, you're not getting excited and hopping off the bench and running out on the court, giving everyone high fives. It's just, I think Blatt tried to do something different, tried to match Golden State instead of exploiting the mismatch, and he just got outcoached in that scenario. And I think for Game 6, he's got to go back to starting Mozgov.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right there, where he tried to match them, and Golden State, the reason why they struggled in Game 2 and 3, yes, Steph wasn't shooting the way he's used to, but Tristan Thompson and Timofey Mozgov killed them on the boards. And, then he goes and scores, 28 points in Game 4? And then you're sitting, that it's on Blatt. He tried to, I agree with you, he tried to match them, and it blew up in his face.
Yeah, and for Game 6, like I said, you got to go back to the thing that had the most success. Yeah, he got blown out by 21 points when Mozgov put up 28, but you didn't get any help from Shumpert, Deladova, or Smith. And in this game, you got help from Shumpert and Smith, and then you saw Deladova can put up some points. So you just got to rely on those guys to have a big game and have Mozgov in the lineup, because they lost the rebounding battle again, and they tied in bench points. And if you don't win the rebounding battle, it's not going to help you.
Yeah. End game with that is, without Kyrie and without Kevin Love, Golden State starters are way better than anything Cleveland could put out there, and that's saying something because Cleveland has LeBron. But But, when you break even on the bench, when Golden State wins the battle on the boards, if it's up to the starters, Golden State's winning every time. So,
who do you like for Game 6?
This one's interesting. It goes back to Cleveland, right?
Yes.
I don't think LeBron lets, in his first year back, I don't think he lets them close the stadium with a loss, and with the Warriors celebrating on their home court. I think this one's going back to Golden State for 7.
I would like to see it go back to Golden State in 7 because the Warriors haven't won in 40-something years, so I'd like to see them win it at home. But the Warriors are just going to go all out in Game 6. They're going to try and win it, and I think they will. I think these past 2 games showed us, the fans, how dominant they can be, and that they are starting to really feel it and get so much confidence. Every player. You saw Harrison Barnes call for the ball, and he was posting up LeBron. That takes confidence. He ended up drawing a foul on LeBron, too. So they're full of confidence, and I think that they will carry it through in Game 6.
We shall see.
We will. It's going to be very interesting. In other sad news for Philadelphia 76ers fans, Joel Embiid, the prized number 3 overall pick from the 2014 draft, has had a setback with his foot, and surgery is possible.
Yeah, I saw that. I felt bad for you guys. It's just, especially with a big man, the last thing you want to have him have is problems with his foot. That happened to Yao. So
yeah, you can just name any big man. It happened to Yao. It happened to Greg Oden. I mean, that was his knees, but any part of the lower body for a big man. And then Sam Bowie.
Everything was wrong with Greg Oden.
Yeah, and then even go way back to Sam Bowie, who could have been way better. I think he was in the same draft as Jordan, and he was supposed to be 10 times better than Jordan because he was a dominant big man. He was athletic. He was like an athletic big man like Anthony Davis, but before they were actually like a thing, and he was supposed to be real good, and then leg injuries just really hurt him. So I'm hoping, Sixers fans are hoping that that's not true, but we shall see.
Yeah. I know Knicks fans are hoping it is true, though, because you guys have a brighter future than we do.
Yeah. But when I was looking at it, they said it was less healing than usual, which doesn't sound as bad. They said surgery's possibility, but only about a 30% chance, they said. And looking at the draft so far, if you look at the top 10 picks, he was the best player available, and obviously weren't going to get Wiggins. Parker was ahead of you, so you couldn't get him. And he was hurt. He got hurt as well. Aaron Gordon, I don't think, really got off the bench that much for the Magic. Exum really didn't come on till late with the Jazz, but the Jazz have so many good young players that he might just be a bench player. Marcus Smart didn't really start playing until the end of the year, and he was even not getting much time because of Isaiah Thomas, and before that it was Rondo before they traded him. Julius Randle was hurt. Stalkus, they've been trying to trade him. No, Vonleh did nothing, and Peyton would probably be the only one that I'd say you should have kept. I mean, the Sixers drafted him eventually, but not at 3. I mean, I think it was smart what they did. Taking him at 10, I probably would have kept him because he really started to show he was a good young player. But looking at that draft, it doesn't really make any sense to take anyone but Embiid, even if he is injured for the next year, if he has to be out a whole year after surgery, or if it's a career-ending injury. I mean, I don't think it is. It shouldn't be. But if it is, it was worth the risk.
Yeah. I mean, when you're picking 3 lucky for Sixer fans, not lucky for Embiid, but when you're picking 3 and you're lucky enough to have, like you said, the best player available, going into the draft, fall to you because of an injury, I mean, it makes too much sense not to take the risk. I mean, and obviously the Sixers have done this before. Pelicans took Nerlens and you traded Drew Holiday for him. But the tough part is the East is a crapshoot every year. You guys could make it if you have a healthy Embiid, but that's not long long-term goal. So I don't think it makes difference. I think Embiid has as long as he needs, within reason, obviously, to get back and you start making an impact.
Yeah, I agree. The Sixers didn't plan on even competing until the 2016-2017 season. I even heard the 2017-2018 season. So there's no rush for Embiid. Saric, who's the touted power forward from, I forget where he's from, Turkey or something like that, I think. He's
Croatia, Turkey, something around there.
Yeah, some European country. I should know, but I don't. He has a buyout for the 2015-2016 season, so the Sixers could buy him out, and he could be playing this upcoming season. So the Embiid setback could just open a window for Saric, and then, like, if Embiid does come back, you might not need him. Saric could come off the bench. So it actually opens up a scenario where Saric could become a starter and develop way quicker as Embiid continues to heal.
Yeah. I mean, Saric might play a factor. I mean, when I read scouting reports on him before the draft, he's seen more. You know, the problem with him that I see is he's seen more as like a Gallinari kind of, where he's got the size to play power forward by far, but his shooting ability and his outside defense might be too good to not play him at the 3 instead of playing him at the 4 and screwing with Nerlens and the whole setup with him and Embiid. You know, and the other factor I think that plays in is, you know, and I seem to find a new article about you guys every time I look for Nick free agent rumors. But you guys have a lot of cash to spend this year. Obviously, if they choose to spend, that's a whole different ball game. But, you know, some of the names you guys are tied to because of the money you have, you know, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, because they're restricted free agents, you know, that you guys can just throw the money at them. I think this might be a more interesting offseason for you guys than it is for the Knicks, and this is the offseason the Knicks fans have been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point, and with Saric, I think I agree with you. He's more of a small forward because he's a better shooter and not much of a low post player. But what better way to develop him as a big man and a small forward with them beat out? Because, I mean, you can slide Nerlens to the center and put Saric at power forward and then play Covington, or you can slide them up and then play another center. I mean, if you decide to draft one, if they think the Embiid injury is going to be long term, they can sign one this offseason. But yeah, I definitely think with the guys who they've been tied to, Middleton, Butler, I think they might be looking at a big time guard.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about it. I mean, I know D'Angelo Russell's kind of considered, you know, a hybrid 1 and a 2, but he's, you know, not as good as setting up the offense from what I've read. You know, and you look at it, you know, yeah, if Sarge comes over, but you said he has an opt-out after this coming season?
He has an opt-out. They can buy him out this summer.
They can? Oh.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if they choose to do that, I think it gets interesting. I think that might mean there's a bigger issue with Embiid. So if I'm a Sixers fan, I'm worried if they spend the money to buy him out because of his ability to play power forward. You know, it just makes you think, could it be, with Embiid, worse than they're saying, that they're paying for this guy to leave his European team early to slide Nerlens to the 5 and play this guy at the 4. You know, that's the weird thing with this, is that Sarge can play 2 positions, Nerlens can play 2 positions, and Embiid, when he's healthy, is a center. So, you know, that's where it gets tricky with the Sixers.
Yeah, it does get tricky, but at the same time, if you're a Sixers fan and the Sixers organization, you're looking at this and saying, well, this isn't a terrible thing, because if the Embiid injury is really bad, we have other options. It's not like we're like, oh man, like Embiid's out, we gotta grab a guy with our number 3 pick this draft. It's not we can get the best player available, who might be D'Angelo Russell, and then we have Saric, who we can bring over, and then it just gives us a lot of flexibility, which I think for a Sixers fan, even though the Embiid news sucks, the flexibility aspect is very good.
Oh yeah, and I mean, as an insurance policy as well, I mean, we mentioned Yao Ming, and it set the Rockets back, 3 or 4 years when he had to retire. They got lucky to sign Dwight Howard, but if they don't sign him, it's literally. I'm not even sure they bother to make the trade for Harden if they don't have intention of getting Dwight Howard, because that's how far that team was set back by Yao having to retire early. And you look at it, the Sixers kind of, I guess, are unintentionally, obviously, because Sarge was taken in the same draft in Nerlens the year before. You're set up for, if something's really wrong with Embiid, you're covered. You're not set back a couple of years.
Yeah, and for a Sixers fan, you got to look the bright side. But it is also hard because recent news came out that D'Angelo Russell, the prospect that we were hoping to get that has flexibility to play point guard and shooting guard, has canceled his workout with the Sixers.
Really?
Yeah, so if you're a Sixers fan, if you thought it was bad to be a Sixers fan, it may be worse. There was rumors about Russell being guaranteed that he was going to be taken by the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know if I agree with that or think that's very true. Maybe something came up. Maybe he was just tired of doing all the workouts and needed a break. It could be a plethora of things. I still think he's the guy the Sixers are going to take, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through this, and wasn't Embiid looked sad when ESPN showed him on camera last year?
It was a delayed view, but that's what they say. But yeah, it was. When they showed him, he didn't look very happy. Apparently, it was delayed, but he's happy to be here now, and we just hope he heals.
Hope his foot's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hearing this is great news for me sitting at 4. I haven't really been paying attention to much of the mock drafts and who teams are looking at. But obviously, if Russell's even possibly going to the Lakers to be the heir apparent to Kobe, as much as Hinkie loves his picks, Phil better get on the horn and try to get up to 3 to guarantee us one of the guys that we missed out on. But I mean, in all seriousness, it's weird. We saw something similar to this in the MLB draft, where, and I'm looking up where he got drafted to, but they had Daz Cameron, Mike Cameron's son, was in the draft, and he was projected as a first-round pick, and it was rumored that he had already struck a deal with the Astros, and something with if they didn't if another team took him, he wasn't signing because of the amount of money Houston guaranteed him. And obviously, I'm looking at his Wikipedia page now. He ended up going 37th overall to the Astros. But, and obviously in the NBA draft, it's not going to affect a guy as much because there's no going back to college or going to college in Daz Cameron's case. But they, it's interesting to see, when these teams throw out, oh, we're looking at this guy, we're going to take this guy, it screws up everybody,
Yeah, I'm looking at a draft from Sunday, June 14th, which is yesterday. And the Sixers are projected to take Emmanuel Mudiay, point guard from China, and Russell falls to the Knicks at 4.
Yeah, I mean, I would be upset by that. Obviously, Mudiay is a better player all around than Russell, in my opinion. But, I mean, the Knicks, got screwed in the lottery. It's the best way to put it. Falling the four. But, you're going to get a good player. We talked about this on the previous show. The Knicks will get a good player. The Sixers will get a good player. It's a matter of if they stay healthy and if they develop past where they are now.
Yeah, looking at it, the reason I don't think the Sixers would take Moody, no matter what Russell says, is because the reason Michael Carter-Williams was traded, I mean, he was a great all-around player. He could get boards. He could get assists. It's just he wasn't a good shooter. And when you look at the case of Moody and Russell is a 10 times better shooter, and that's why I think he's the guy the Sixers are going to take. And if he does go at 2, I definitely see the Sixers taking Okafor, Towns, and then trying to just bait him to either the Knicks or a team lower than the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if one of them falls, it's, it makes it interesting, similar to when you guys got Nerlens. But, that's the interesting thing is, everybody knows the Lakers at any point can flip the switch and be ready to compete next year. They're the Lakers. That's what they do. So, and obviously they have Randall, whoever they take this year, they're going to have for the future. But, I mean, you look at it, and, they're a team that they might not, everybody's saying, oh, Okafor, Towns, whoever Minnesota doesn't take. But at the end of the day, they might very well take Russell because they could end up with a, Kevin Love or, Joakim Noah or, if you want to just keep throwing names at the Roy Hibbert if Indiana decides to get rid of him. Brook Lopez. There's a bunch of names out there. And the Lakers are a team where it's not, we look at the Timberwolves, the Knicks to an extent, the Sixers, it's what holes do they need to start? I don't necessarily see that in the Lakers because, like I said, they can become a contender at any point that they want. It's a matter of what they're going to have in 3 years when Kobe's gone, whoever they sign is getting to the end of their contract. That's what they're setting up for. So that's the thing that makes it interesting is they don't need a guy that's going to play right away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of the people that are going to be listening to this are going to be yelling, Kobe Bryant's still there. Why would you take a shooting guard like Kobe Bryant? But eventually Kobe's going to retire. I wouldn't be surprised if after this year he retires. So if you're going to replace the other positions with top-notch guys, like Rondo or Kevin Love, Brook Lopez, then why not take a shooting guard, let him sit under Kobe, learn from Kobe, and then him be ready to produce right away instead of having to develop him after Kobe retires.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, we talked about this with the finals. I mean, if the Lakers want to compete, they need a bench. And especially playing in the West. And, if you can have Russell sitting on your bench along with Nick Young, along with Wesley Johnson, it obviously depends on who they sign. But if they could have a bench of young guys, and some vets, their bench would rank up there, and then you add in whatever they would sign, that's really the interesting thing here. Like I said, is that you don't know what they're going to do because they don't necessarily have an immediate need because they can patch up whatever holes they want.
Yeah, I agree. An immediate need right now for the Lightning is for them to win their next game and force a Game 7 as they are behind the Blackhawks 3-2 in the series after they were leading 2-1. The NHL Finals are looking a lot like the NBA Finals in the way the games have been going, as the Lightning were up 2-1, now down 3-2. Cavs were the same way. Do you think the Blackhawks are going to take Game 6 and clinch in Chicago for the first time since 1938?
Absolutely. And that's not because the Lightning knocked the Rangers out. Chicago's just been outplaying, similar to the Warriors, outplaying the Lightning these last 2 games. They There's no other explanation for it. The experience is taking over, and then the Blackhawks are a boulder running downhill at this point.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but of course, hockey game sevens are the best. So I'm cross my fingers for one. I think Ben Bishop being banged up really hurt the Lightning, and now Kucherov being banged up, he's iffy for game 6. I want the Lightning to force a game 7, but unless they get an amazing game from Ben Bishop, I think their offense is really being stifled by the Blackhawks. And I think the Blackhawks will win game 6 unless Ben Bishop turns in an amazing performance, which he has done many times this postseason.
Yeah, especially against my team.
Yeah.
You make a good point. I don't see it happening. Chicago's one of those teams that, we talked about this again before the series started. They step up when they need to, similar to Ben Bishop. And this is a series that, this is a game that they need to win. I don't think they want to have to go back to Tampa and beat them in a game 7 because, Tampa's battle tested. Bishop won a game 7 in the Garden, Other than Chicago, I really don't think there's a better, a tougher place to play a game 7 on the road. So I think Chicago knows that, Bishop is going to show up for this game, so they got to have a little bit of luck. But I think they're going to come out. I think they'll come out determined in game 6. Come out, take care of business, raise the cup in Chicago. It'll be a good time.
As much as I hate Chicago, and I would like to see the Lightning win because Chicago has been there so many times in the past 5 years, just like LeBron has, same reason why I want the Warriors, it would be really something to see them raise the cup for the first time in Chicago since 1938. Most people didn't even realize hockey was played in 1938, and I just think it'd be great for the whole city. It would be something, and teaming in getting a cup, I guess I could live with if the Blackhawks do win.
Yeah. This that's the thing with the Blackhawks. They're not supposed to have a game 6 on home ice. They're supposed to be the favorite, But obviously circumstances in the regular season with Kane. But like I said, I don't see this leaving Chicago. I think they close it out at home.
Yeah, and the voice of hockey, Doc Emmerich, who will be calling Game 6, will receive the Vin Scully Award for Lifetime Achievement. Emmerich has worked 25 consecutive Stanley Cup playoffs, 14 Stanley Cup Final Series, 10 NHL All-Star games, plus 7 Olympic Winter Games. So I just wanted to give a shout-out to Doc Emmerich. If he does listen to this, he might. You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think that's a great achievement for him. I think he deserves it because he makes hockey 10 times more enjoyable to watch, which I didn't think was that possible.
Oh, yeah. It's so much more fun watching a game with him than, someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I got lucky this year because, President's Trophy winners, they're putting him on every game. But, last year, there were games, and I think they were mostly in the series against you guys, the opening series, where he didn't call them, and it sucked. You could tell.
Yeah, it's just a huge difference between, announcers. You can see that in other sports as well. Not as big as hockey, but, yeah, he's the man when it comes to hockey, and he is a has a very powerful voice. And,
especially when he yells off the post.
Oh yeah, that's something. You can just feel it. You get chills down your spine no matter who you're cheering for. We're going to switch to baseball right now and the power rankings. They come out on Monday, and we were recording this show a day early, so Buster Olney released the top 5 as he does them. So we don't have the Mets or the Phillies because they didn't get the top 5, but I can probably tell you the Phillies are last, and the Mets are somewhere like the 15, the 17 range.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess. 1 is the Cardinals at 41 and 21. 2 is the Dodgers at 37 and 26. 3 is Pittsburgh at 35 and 27. 4 is the Royals at 34-24, and 5 is Texas at 33-30.
Yeah, I think these are all solid. I don't disagree with any. Texas has definitely been hot though. It sucks for them because they get something going, and then they get hurt.
Yeah.
Something has to happen with them. It can never just be easy. But they definitely showed signs of life when Hamilton came back, and then he went down, and then Beltre went down, but they called him Gallo, so no big deal there.
Yeah, it definitely helped Texas stay hot and get into the top 5, which is their new top 5 team. Because last year, Fielder gets hurt and they replace him with J.P. Arancibia. And then this year, Beltre goes down. They would replace him with top 5 prospect Joey Gallo, who has just been hitting the leather off the ball.
Yeah. Well, I'll give my brother this shout out because he'll be listening to this when we get it online. I went to a Scranton game, Scranton Rail Riders, AAA affiliate of the Yankees, and Arancibia is now in AAA with Tampa. Our seats were on the first base line, and we racked in about 5 game balls because he just kept throwing them to us because we were cheering for him. So for my brother Mike, that was the Arancibia mention of the entire podcast. He won't get mentioned again. Enjoy it while it lasts. Well, will be coming soon.
After that game, you tweeted at Arancibia, and he tweeted back at you, right?
Yeah.
You should tweet at him and say, hey, we got an Arancibia mention in the podcast. Maybe he'll listen. Maybe we'll get the whole Rail Riders to listen.
Durham Bulls.
Oh, that's right, because the Rail Riders, he's on the Tampa. Whatever, we'll get the whole minor league system to listen to us.
So, that made a huge difference, calling up Gallo instead of calling up J.P. Arancibia. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting when Beltre comes back, because obviously you don't want to send down Gallo. He's been hitting the leather off the ball, like you said. But also, Beltre, he's signed for, 2 or 3 more years. I think what'll be interesting is, with them, they could make a move for a pitcher, with Yu Darvish being out for the year. You're this hot, you don't want to blow it because you don't have pitching.
Yeah. So. And, I mean, they can utilize the DH position with Beltre or Gallo, or I'm pretty sure Beltre's played some first, so they can maybe put Fielder at DH. But
yeah, I guess they could do that. I mean, who are they playing now then? Mitch Moreland. So
yeah, I mean, it's really not. It's actually going to make their lineup better if Mitch Moreland isn't there or coming off the bench. But as you can see, they're still they're still a young team. They're mixing veterans with young guys. So just like the Astros, who have been in the top 5 previously, they fell out of the top 5. I think Texas, they're making their run. They're going to be a decent team. They'll probably be around 500 for the whole year. But I mean, I don't see them really making a push for the playoffs.
I mean, with the way the roster stands now, I agree with you. No way. Although their park concedes a lot of them, they rely too much on the home run. Especially when Hamilton and Beltre get back, that's all those guys do is hit home runs. And then Gallo and Fielder, it's a home run derby. But I think if they could add pitching, and they don't need to add an ace, they do have Gallardo.
And Martinez pitched awesome.
Yeah, Martinez too. But I mean, you look, if they can get a serviceable guy in there, just to give you some somewhat quality innings, obviously the ball's going to fly out of their park regardless. But if you could have, maybe a ground ball pitcher, just keep the ball on the ground instead of in the air, it would make them better and give them a better chance. I mean, I don't think they have enough pitching with just Gallardo and Martinez because Darvish isn't coming back this year. And the one name I've seen, because I'm a Mets fan and we have issues with having too many pitchers now, is Dylan G. I mean, again, not an ace by any means necessary, but he's not happy with the Mets because the Mets want to stick him in the bullpen. Mets need to clear space for their young pitchers. G might be a good gamble for them. He's from Texas. It was originally rumored in the offseason that they were interested in him before they got Gallardo. So, I mean, it might be worth the gamble for Texas, from a Texas standpoint, to say, let's bring this guy in. I mean, he has had good seasons in the past, and that's what they need. They just need, some quality guys. Like I said, they don't need an ace. They don't need to go give Philly every young prospect that came up last year with all the injuries for Hamels, because they have Gallardo back next year. Get a serviceable guy in there. If they get another quality pitcher, they can make a run. But as it stands right now, I don't see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dylan G's a low risk, high reward. It's not gonna cost them really much. Probably a AA prospect, maybe even single A prospect, because at this point, Mets are looking to get rid of him. He's looking to get out of New York. So it just kind of it actually makes too much sense, which is why I think it probably won't happen.
Yeah, because the Mets are idiots.
Yeah. Another new team in the top 5 is sitting at 3, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have been on a hot streak of late, and they're being carried by not only Andrew McCutchen this time, but their pitching staff, especially A.J. Burnett, who seems he can only pitch in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, he's been huge for them. There's no other way to really put it.
Yeah, he went 9 innings today. I think 5 hits, 4 strikeouts. The game ended up going in extra, so we didn't get the win. But you just see, it's almost like their offense isn't there yet, because I guess most likely the Russell Martin, with him leaving, it hurt their offense. But it definitely didn't hurt their pitching staff, and they've been lights out, and they're able to move up to 3. And Pittsburgh's they're the team that's going to just find different ways to beat you. One night it'll be pitching. The other night it will be hitting. The other night it might be small ball or defense. They're just one of those teams that find ways to win, and they can do it in many different ways.
Yeah, and I think another factor, though, is, although it's not by a lot yet, you can kind of see it when you watch them play, is that Gregory Polanco seems to fit a lot better this year.
Yeah, and I think that might have been just, like, Pittsburgh, you see that team, and they're not all-stars. They're not paid a lot of money. They're just guys who are working hard, and it seems like they rally around each other. And then you had Polanco come up, and, he's that prize prospect. And then it was almost like a thing where he had to get knocked down a level to raise his level, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, almost he had to get rid of the ego and become a part of the whole group. And that's what he did this year, and he's gelling more with the team.
Yeah, and you could see it in his stats, too. I mean, his batting average is up 20 points from last year. He's hitting the ball better. He's not getting as many lucky roll-throughs, infielders screwing up. He's playing to his potential, and I think that's the thing, is that he might not have felt comfortable, like you said, after getting knocked down a peg by not performing to what he did in the minor leagues, similar to, as opposed to, the Chris Bryants of the world that just came up and hit bombs. But he got knocked down that peg that he needed to get knocked down, and now he's back and he's playing the way he's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's definitely helping the Pirates and himself, especially when he's going to look for an extension.
Oh, yeah.
One man who is been hitting bombs for his entire career with the Cardinals and the Angels, Albert Pujols, is now sitting 16th place on the all-time home runs list. He just passed Mickey Mantle, and he's 9 behind Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, he's... It kind of sucks, because he was one of those guys when he was in St. Louis when you kind of thought, if he plays long enough, could he give Bonds a run for his money? And what sucks, he had the down years, in the beginning of the contract with Anaheim. He he'd be up there if he didn't have those down years. Especially the fact that he could DH.
Yeah, I mean, when you were looking at him with the Cardinals, you knew that if he was going to be able to hit 600, 650, maybe 700, which would have been tough, he would have to eventually become a DH and avoid injury. He moves to LA for a long-term deal, which would hint that he was going to eventually DH. He will not be able to play first, but injuries got him in the beginning of that contract, slowed him down a little. I mean, he still has some years left in him, so he could easily hit 600, 650, but, I mean, there's no way he's catching Bonds.
Yeah, no, not anymore.
One man that did not catch Bonds but joined Hank Aaron, A-Rod, our favorite Alex Rodriguez. He became the second player next to Hank Aaron as the only two players with 2,000 RBIs.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the last show, I think it was, where, you know, you want to be happy for him, but at the same time, you know the stats aren't clean, so, or we assume the stats aren't clean, so, you know, it doesn't have the same feel that, you know, other you know, like Pujols, he passes Mickey Mantle. It's a big deal. It's Mickey Mantle, and Pujols was never busted for it, so he deserves all the credibility he gets for it.
Yeah, I mean,
when
even
he passes Schmidt, when he passes whoever, but A-Rod just doesn't have the same feel.
Yeah, even looking on Twitter, you see Pujols when he passed him, tied him, was one away. Sports Center had the picture of Pujols, and then told you about it, and it was all over social media. A-Rod joins Hank Aaron with 2,000 RBIs, and there's nothing. And then A-Rod's five hits away from 3,000, nothing. It's just, I don't know if that's coming from just the way people view him, so they're thinking, why tweet it, because no one's going to really care anyway, because he's kind of become the villain of MLB baseball, and usually people rally around a villain, but not A-Rod.
Yeah, no. I mean, you know, people hate him now. I mean, a lot of people think he ruined this era, you know, because even if he never gets busted, you know, if he never gets busted, these numbers are ridiculous, you know, to be up there with 2,000 RBIs, you know, however many home runs he has, you know, 3,000 hits, you know, if he never gets busted, he goes down as one of the best to ever play.
Yeah.
You know, but everybody hates him now.
Yeah. And one man that most people hate in the NFL is Des Bryant, and he's thinking about skipping the season opener for the Dallas Cowboys.
I saw that and I jumped for joy because their week one's against us.
Yeah, I mean, that's good for the Giants fans.
Yeah, I think.
But it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's making millions of dollars. Like, I don't understand the point of skipping it.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that I think this means he wants to. See, the thing is that I don't know. It's almost like he's pointing to he wants to be a Cowboy, get the deal done. You know, because with the new CBA, I remember when they put it in because Chris Johnson held out that year. And with the new CBA, the player doesn't benefit at all from holding out because as they hold out, they either owe money back to the team, or if they miss long enough, they have to play another season with that team. So, you know, all the players' leverage in the new CBA vanished, went up in smoke. You know, there's no point to this, you know, other than potentially like I said, he wants to be a Cowboy. He's willing to take the extra year, but he wants to be paid like, you know, the top receiver in the game. Even though he's not, he wants to be paid like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good receiver. He will be getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's gonna have to pay money back if he does skip, and if he skips this season opener, that's just gonna hurt him in the long run. Even if he leaves the Cowboys, because now they're thinking this guy I'm gonna pay this guy a lot of money, and then if he has another great season, he's gonna ask for more money, and if I don't pay him, he's just gonna sit out. So what's the point of paying him the big money?
Yeah, and I think NFL.com had an interesting article on this. And we see it with the quarterbacks. The players are, they're either trying to match what other quarterbacks are getting or go over it, But there's a bar because, Peyton and Brady have had contracts way before Eli did, way before Luck ever started looking for his contract. Alex Smith even. So there's been a bar there. The problem is, the last time that I can remember, obviously Megatron, he got paid, he deserved it, he's the best receiver in the game. Fitzgerald as well. But the last time there was really an issue signing a receiver that I could think of, where it was how much are you going to pay me, how much are you going to pay me, how much are you going to pay me, oh, you're going to pay me the most, I'll go to you, was Randy Moss. And the salary cap and everything is a whole lot different now than when Randy Moss was in his prime. So now you look, the Julio Joneses of the world, Demaryius Thomas and Des Bryant, it's kind of who's going to be the first one to pull the trigger and sign, so we know what bar they're trying to get up to if Des signs first, or get over if, say, Julio Jones signs first.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what's going to happen. I mean, he's trying to get to Calvin Johnson level pay-wise, and if he doesn't get it from the Cowboys, it seems like he'll move on. One man that has moved on from the Eagles is Evan Mathis. He was released by the Chip Kelly-led Eagles and is now a free agent.
Yeah, another thing with football lately that I've just been very happy with. I guess that was partly because when I looked up Evan Mathis, Eagles, first thing that popped up was, could McAdoo use the West Coast offense which Reed ran, to draw Mathis into New York with the Giants? Chip Kelly confuses me, man. I don't know how you deal with it as a fan.
I was looking at it, and Mathis did have $5.5 million on his contract, and I think he had this year and next year. It was not that much money considering how much space we had, but the relationship between Evan Mathis and Chip Kelly deteriorated last year, or last offseason, I should say, and it really wasn't up to par, and Chip Kelly just felt that it was best for the team morale and for Mathis to release him. Mathis has been regarded as one of the best guards in the game for the past 2 years, but he is getting up there in age, and I think Chip just thought it was better for both parties to release him.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of situations with the Eagles where Andy Reid's players are upset, I guess you could say, about Chip Kelly's system. And you see, obviously, Macklin going to Andy Reid, Deshaun going to, Washington, which with Gruden ran, West Coast style. Obviously the rumors with Mathis and the Giants, and McCoy, I mean, just going to a team that likes to run the ball a lot. Rex started the ground and pound trend. I think it's just, Chip Kelly's going to get his guys. And there's nothing any player that has an issue with it can do about it. contracts in the NFL are written on toilet paper, as it seems.
Yeah, that's very true, especially with the guaranteed money. That's really what you got to look at when you look at the contracts, because it really comes down to, does he have any guaranteed money left? How much does he have left? How much would we have to eat if we release him? That's all it comes down to. I think the Eagles only have to pay Mathis $1 million this year and next year, so they save $4.5 million each year. So it made sense for the Eagles. It's just now you got a gaping hole at guard because you lost the best guard according to Pro Football Talk the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's obviously that's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah, and I think with Chip's offense, you don't need the strongest guard. You don't need the biggest guard. You just need a guard who is just going to do what he has to do. And because most of the time with the zone, you have a guard going to the second level and blocking linebackers. So you don't need the biggest guard because you're not going to be matched up against a D tackle and a defensive end every time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with, it's, Mathis is going to do just fine wherever he goes because he's going to get to pick now what system he wants to play in. But I just think that, like I said, it's confusing. He's the, like I said, according to Pro Football Talk, he's the best guard in football. And I guess, like you said, being in trade rumors for 2 years fractured the relationship between him and Chip Kelly, especially when Chip Kelly took over personnel decisions.
Yeah, and that's what happened, and it was just deteriorating, and I think Chip decided to make the move at the right time. I mean, it wasn't going to help his play being disgruntled at the coach. It wasn't going to help the team morale. It just made sense.
Yeah.
In other news, ex-Giant David Wilson falls short of the U.S. track qualifier. As we know, David Wilson was a highly touted back coming out of Virginia Tech, and he was forced to retire from spinal issues. But it seems like he has a chance to make the U.S. track qualifying team. Obviously not this year because he fell a little short, but eventually.
Yeah, he looked good. I saw some video of it. He definitely looked good. I mean, he was obviously fast. He's a running back, and especially from VTAC that runs the spread and everything. But, obviously unfortunate that he had to retire the way he did. But, as a Giant fan, I'm happy to see he's making the most of the unfortunate hand he was dealt that he had to retire early.
Yeah, I think it's just a great story. I mean, I'm happy for him. I mean, even if he didn't make the U.S. track team, but I mean, he'll still be running in track meets and be getting sponsorships. So he'll be just doing.
He's doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing swell, and it's just good to see him get back out there and doing something that he's good at. I mean, obviously running back. So
yeah,
it's just a good overall story.
Yeah, very good story. I want to throw in one thing here before we close out the show to say. I'd like to give a shout out to the 27th overall pick in the MLB draft this year. Didn't go to my high school, but in the same conference as my high school, at a Stroudsburg High School, Mike Nickfrack, going to the Rockies, 27th overall. Probably the biggest thing to ever enter my area. So I just want to congratulate him on getting drafted. Funny thing is, saw him in the mall the day after and didn't even notice him.
Oh, wow.
The fact that he was wearing a Rockies hat.
That's awesome. It's great to see local guys make it and wish him the best, of course. Maybe he'll be able to carry the Monday Night podcast into the minor league system and the majors eventually.
Yeah, we got Mike Nickerack and JP Arancibia.
That's all we need.
And I got a photo with Rochester's pitching coach on Friday, so we're in business for the minor leagues.
That sounds good to me. All right, we're going to wrap up the show for this week. Next week we will have talk on the finals. The series will be over. The NHL series will be over. We'll have the new updated power rankings. We'll see if Pujols is able to pass Mike Schmidt. 9 home runs in a week. Maybe a little tough. And we'll have more NFL news. For Louis Schaefer, I'm Tim Hoffmeister. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back here next week.